we an empire?
I think we've been an empire for a long time.
How long?
And I think that because, are you familiar with what happened in the year 1913?
What happened?
Under the presidency of Woodrow Wilson? It's a very pivotal year. There's three things that happened that year. You know, a lot of people will be familiar with the Jekyll Island meeting that created the Federal Reserve. That happens in 1913. And the Federal Reserve Act is passed over the Christmas break when the Warburg family, who's one of the German banking families, is there. The Rockefellers are there. And they basically decide that they want to prop up a central bank because they want to protect their own assets. Because if you look at the Federal Reserve, it's not federal and it's not, you know, it doesn't have any reserves. It's basically a cartel.
A freaking men. I have not watched this episode in full transparency. I can't wait to watch it. I've got it teed up to listen to or to watch. This is on the Sean Ryan show. I've only seen this official preview. But what caught my attention was, did you know about the secret meeting in 1913? And as he's illustrated, so many people in today's society still think that that's some type of myth or folklore. No, that is historic. Now, there was another name that he didn't mention. He talked about the Rockefellers and the German banking family was J.P. Morgan. So Jekyll Island was actually owned by J.P. Morgan, and that was the secret meeting in 1911. So he mentions 1913. 1913 is when everything was executed. Meaning the full execution of the Federal Reserve, or implementation is what I should say. But the meeting took place in 1911. Now, where he goes from here, and again, I haven't watched the entire episode, is I would imagine just reading the show notes, he's getting into the tentacles of the Roman Empire and how that still exists today, either via the Vatican. I don't know. I'll figure it out once I watch the episode. But thank you so much, because I'm a big fan of the Sean Ryan show, but I haven't seen anybody on there from a financial perspective really talk about what happened in 1913 and really correlate it to what's going on today. We're having our own 1913 moment right here in 2026. But how does this relate to what we do at Replace Your University? You know, the Federal Reserve, which again, as he said, is neither federal nor is it a reserve. It's owned by a bunch of member banks. But what the Federal Reserve allows banks to do is execute fractional reserve lending. And that's when, shortly after the creation of the Federal Reserve, when the modern day mortgage began. See, we think that the mortgages today are the same mortgages that we consumed 100, 200, 300 years ago. It is not. Actually, the creation of the Federal Reserve is what caused the modern day mortgage to change to a closed-in 30-year period death pledge, where we used to have a mortgage. It was still called a mortgage, but it acted very similar to a home equity line of credit, where it was open-end. You could go down to the bank, get your 10 grand, go put it towards farm equipment, cultivate more crop, earn 20 grand, turn around and put it back in. That's where Americans stored their cash. That's what we're trying to get folks back to, is let's go back to basics, because it worked then. Average homeowner back then was paying their home off in 10 years. Why? Were they more educated? Probably. They didn't have Netflix, Hulu, and all this other distractions, but they also had a more advantageous financial system prior to the Fed. Their mortgage was an open-end instrument, and that's what everybody used. That's what I would love for everybody to go back to, because now, not only are you going to own your homes, you're going to have access to capital to invest in your businesses or to save for retirement. You can pay your home off in 5 to 7 years if that's what you chose to do on your current level of income, assuming you're cash flow positive. That's what I would love to get back to, is us just going back to basics. So can't wait to watch this episode. Hopefully he gets into the mortgage aspect of it, but if he doesn't, hit me up, Sean. You're right here local to me. Obviously you're a big player and I'm a small fish in a big pond. But yeah, I would love the opportunity. Who wouldn't? So going back to the example of how the average American back then, prior to 1913, stored their cash in their mortgage. Their mortgage was their bank account. Because if you think of around Christmas time, what is the more popular Christmas shows? It's a Wonderful Life. There was run on banks. People didn't trust the banks, so they ran to George Bailey's bank and wanted their cash back because they didn't feel like it was protected and secure in there. And that's how the average American felt in the late 1800s and especially early 1900s. So they didn't store their cash in a bank, nor did they put it under the mattress in the cabin, because the only home security was the shotgun over the mantle, which was good enough, I might add. Still good enough to this day. But they stored it in their mortgage. Along comes the Federal Reserve. And as Jeremy has said, It is neither federal nor is it a reserve. And it's the backstop to banks and allows them to execute fractional reserve lending. So for every dollar you put in a bank account, they now have the ability to lend out 10 times that amount. If it's an NCUA, 15 times that amount. So think about that magic trick. Before, banks could only lend out what they actually had on deposits. So if they had $100,000 worth of deposits, they had the ability to lend out $100,000 in the form of loans. Now, if you have $100,000 in deposits, you have the ability to lend out $1 million in the form of loans, fake fiat currency. So now they get to create arbitrage. So imagine the average consumer trying to do that. You've got $100,000. Yeah, I would love the opportunity to execute fractional reserve lending where I now could say, let me just lend out $1 million and charge interest above and beyond what I'm paying depositors, way above, like thousands of a percent higher than what I'm paying depositors. Yeah, you make a ton of money in arbitrage. Hence why, if you go to any major city, what is the tallest building? It's a bank building. It's a great business model. It's one that if we have a nuclear war, they're going to survive. They're still going to print money and make money. So yeah, I would love to be able to do that as a private citizen. But banks have that ability because of the Federal Reserve. Now that banks have their hands on this magical potion, magical pill, where the snap of their fingers, they turn $1 into $10. They turn $10 into $100, $100 into $1,000, and so on. Now they get together like, well, golly, wouldn't it be nice if we had more deposits? Yeah, the more deposits we have, the more we can lend out and create arbitrage. And again, look at today's time. Right now, you got mortgage rates 6+%. But what is the average account paying you on your checking account and savings account? It's 0.17%. So we may look at that and be like, well, they're only making 5.83%. No, that's the margin. That is not the rate of return. The rate of return is into the thousands of a percent, right? Depending on what their cost of funds is as far as lending that, right? So the federal funds rate, 3%. Blah, blah, blah. So actually banks like it when rates are extremely low, because if the federal funds rate goes to 0.25, but they're able to lend out at 3, they actually make more money than if the federal funds rate is at 3% and they lend out at 6. But I digress. So banks want more deposits. And I've sat in some of these meetings where the first topic that always comes up is how do we increase core deposits? This is what was happening post 1913. And banks got together and said, you know what? Most Americans are storing their cash in their mortgage because it was an open-end tool. It was liquid for the average consumer. So they said, let's do this. Let's make that a closed-end, amortized debt. So it means money can go in freely, but it can't come out freely. What that now does is it forces the average consumer to now segregate their income. I used to be able to put money into my mortgage for safekeeping. Now I can't. I can put it in there and it's quasi-safe, but now I'm no longer liquid to buy farm equipment, cultivate crop, buy more cattle, etc. It's in there, it's stuck in the bank's treasure chest unless I do a refinance or restructuring of my loan to get access to it. So it forced them to park their additional money somewhere else. And guess who that someone else was? Banks. They came along and said, no problem, just put it on here as a deposit or a checking or a savings account or a CD or a money market. We'll hang on to your money. And then they take that to go create more loans and make more money. That's how the modern day mortgage came about. One thing that never went away was a home equity line of credit. So a home equity line of credit is actually going back to the earlier days of mortgages, of what Americans used to do, because it's an open-end simple interest loan. So you put money in. When you put money into a home equity line of credit, the dollars go to principal first, then interest is calculated. When you put money into a mortgage, it goes to interest first, then principal is calculated. So it's completely flipped on its head. But the other thing is it's 100% liquid, meaning if you put 10 grand towards your mortgage or HELOC balance, you now have access to an additional 10 grand inside of your home equity line of credit. If you take that 10 grand and put it towards your mortgage, you've now lost it. Not completely, but until you refinance or sell the home. You don't get it back until you refinance or sell the home. In a home equity line of credit, it is still accessible 24/7, especially in a digital world. I could throw 10 grand into my home equity line of credit, and 5 minutes later, I could just go onto my app and just send it right back to myself. Imagine doing that with a mortgage. And I've said this a few times. Imagine if a mortgage product came onto the scene that was still structured the way theirs are, but it had one caveat. It still had all the closing costs, which, by the way, most HELOCs don't have closing costs. Even the few that do, they're a fraction of what mortgage lenders charge. But imagine if a mortgage product came on the scene and said, it's going to work just like a mortgage does, with one additional caveat, that you maintain liquidity. And here's what we're going to do. We're actually going to charge you an additional $10,000 to have that feature on your mortgage. So it's still a 30-year term, still amortized the same way, but it just has a feature that as you pay down principal, you will have the ability to access that principal pay down. But we're going to charge you 10 grand up front to access that. So instead of it being $15,000 in closing costs, now it's $25,000 in closing costs. I guarantee you it would be the most popular mortgage product in America. Oh, most Americans would sign up for that. Like, absolutely. Having access to my equity when I need it, either for opportunities or to use it to survive off of, medical events, car breaks down, whatever. Yeah, they'll gladly pay the 10 grand to have that one simple feature in a mortgage. Despite the ability to pay it off sooner and all of that, no, I'm just talking about liquidity here. People would flock to it. Again, it would be the most popular mortgage product on the scene. But here's the thing. You can get that same product for free. It recasts automatically every single day for free, and it's 100% liquid. It's been available. That's the alternative that nobody's telling you about. Why? Follow the money. Very little to no closing costs. It recasts automatically every single day for free. Profitability is lower. Where do profits come from? They come from consumers overspending. Guess where commissions come from in the mortgage world? Commissions come from profits. Profits come from consumers overspending. So follow the money. Do I want to consume that product, or I want to consume a product that has little to no closing costs, it has very little profits, hence why they don't pay the bankers any commissions on those products? Yeah, I'd like to consume that product. I think you should as well. So everybody would flock to that archaic mortgage. Why aren't people flocking to what's been around and under our nose the entire time? Because we never knew it was available. Because it's not getting advertised on billboards. It's not getting advertised in a Super Bowl commercial. Why? Because there's no profits there. Why advertise something that's not profitable? So if you liked this video and you found it interesting, you found it impactful and valuable, do me a favor. It kind of rewards us for providing impact and providing value. Please like this video, subscribe, turn on the notifications, because we're doing these every single week and uploading more. That way you get notified for other videos that may change your mindset and the way you view money. And one day maybe you decide to either give us a call or anybody else a call and explore this route and see what the truth is. And it could be life-changing for you. So I appreciate it if you could like our channel. Y'all take care. God bless.